Hi, it's Chris from Epix again. Today's little video is all about how to raise purchase orders from within the system. Now there are two ways of doing this. The first way, and the most common way of raising an order, is to do this from the job sheet. So directly to a job, linking that purchase order as a cost on a job. And of course, you can also raise an order separate from a job. So for example, if you were ordering something to be delivered to stores for stock, then that would be done not against a specific job. Likewise, if you were maybe ordering some IT equipment or some stationery and you were raising that order in our system, you wouldn't again link that to a job, you'd just do that as a standalone order. Now there are certain permissions within the system and maybe even options that might need to be switched on in order for you to use the purchasing module. You'll know soon enough when you come to do any of the things that you see me do in this video. If you haven't got the buttons, then it could be that your system is just simply not set up to do it, or it could be that your permissions are not set to allow you to do purchasing yourself. So that would be again something that you might need to speak to your own managers about, who can then request that from us. We'll begin by showing you how to raise a purchase order from within a job, as that's most likely how you'll be doing these. So on my system here, you can see we've got a job here, status parts required. So that indicates that we need some materials for this job. So I click onto the job and I'll go into the job sheet, and because we've got the purchasing module switched on in our system, we have a button here for raise PO. So what I'll do is I'll click raise PO, and this takes us into the purchase order entry sheet where we can then build up our purchase order. So the top table here is all about the supplier. This table here is all about the delivery of your order and how you'd like it delivered. This is the sort of the order description and the order number, sort of the main information about the order. And then down here, these are the actual products that you'll be ordering, the order lines themselves. So we'll begin at the top and we'll choose our supplier. So as you can see, it's a live search, so anything matching what we put in will be added here. The branch, again, if you have multiple branches, they will be available, but where there is only one, it will automatically select that for you. So say for example you had a supplier that you use regularly and you cross over into say 3 or 4 different branches, you can set those up and choose which one you want to get this order from. Similarly with contacts, those are contacts at the branch, and this is the name of the person that you would like to say email this order to, or your contact regarding the order. There is the opportunity to add any discount to the order. So for example, if you are negotiating with the supplier that you've got a 5% discount on all your orders, then you could put that in here if you so wish. And also regarding the settlement terms, this is for when you want, or rather the supplier wants paying for the order, you can of course change that. These are set at supplier level when you're doing the setup as well. So this particular supplier is set to 28 days, but if on this order it was different, you could change that by picking it from the drop down list here to say 30 days. The next section down of course is our delivery details. So if we just press on the question mark, and we can see we've got a few options available to us. So firstly, collection by operative. If your operative is going to pick this order up from the branch, then choosing this option will allow you then to choose from this field the operative name who's going to pick up that order. Here, the stores, this is your store's locations. So if you've got your main stores and a couple of other branches, you can choose which one of those you want this order to be delivered to. Delivery to site will default to the site address that this PO is for. So this is from a job, and this is the site address of that job. So if you're ordering a load of roof tiles to a job, you might want them to go straight to the premises that you're fitting the tiles to. If we go over here, we've got the opportunity to raise a subcontractor purchase order, and also we can, if the addresses or any of the things that we've chosen so far is just not suitable, you can do a manual address and you can just simply type where you want the order to go to if it's not any of the others. I'd like this to be delivered to site, just for the sake of argument. If we've got any special delivery instructions, then you might want to put those there. So it could be that the site's only available between certain hours, or they have to report to a person on the gate or something like that. All that information would go in here. The delivery date, of course, is when the delivery is due, or when you want the delivery by, if you have negotiated that with them already. And once you've done all those, we can then move on to the actual order itself. So the order number, clicking here, will generate the next unique purchase order number. And here in the order description, we can put a description which is free type that you can then use to search for this order. So if this was, for example, we were going to be ordering a mixer tap for 67 Elm Street, we could type those words here, and then when we come to use the find purchase order screen, if we go into there now, I can quickly show you the screen here where we've got the purchase order containing. You could look in there for, say, Elm Street, or you could do mixer tap, and it would find any orders with those words matching it. So back to our purchase order sheet, any words you put in there can be used to find this order in the future. You might not wish to do that because of course you could still find this purchase order from the job at 67 Elm Street. So it might be that you just simply want this to say something like see ordered lines, because the order description is going to be carried out here in the actual lines. We do have another field here for order notes. Of course you can add some more notes if you need to, and the purchase order date, which will default to today, but of course we do give you the date picker here to change that if you wish. So the order lines section, now this is where you build up the bulk of the purchase order itself. If you've got product codes set up in your system, then typing the code or the description of the item will reveal a list of items that match, and you can choose those. So let's go for tap. We're not seeing a mixer tap here in our product list, so I know that I need to use either a new code or a free type code so I can order the thing that I actually want to buy. However, if I chose this one just for example, it will insert the description and the rate here, so that we can then simply provide the quantity and then add that line. But because that's not the product I want, I'm going to use the manual code, and in there I will just simply type the words for the order based upon the product I'm actually ordering. So this is a mixer tap, I want one of those. The unit of measure, of course, we could change if you were ordering things by the length or weight, for example. And the rate, this is the rate for the supplier, the cost to you. So let's say this is £35. We can then choose the nominal code that you want this to go to. So where you've got all these different nominal codes, obviously if you're recording anything to do with brickwork or roofing, you can do that. But I'm going to put this one for now just under our general nominal. Over here, this is the job ticket number that this purchase order relates to. So that's a really important one. That is what's tying this job to this order. You can't edit that, but you can see it here, and I'll explain later why that's really important when you're doing this, say for a purchase order that's not on a job. At this point we just simply press add, and that's added our line. If we wanted to order something else, then of course we could add another code. Let's stick one of those on there and then press add, and you build up your order like this. If you make a mistake, we've got the edit pencil here where you can then click to edit and re-add, and of course this button here allows you to delete an order line. Once you're done, press the green save button up here, and that will then save the purchase order. Now, depending on your permissions, very much depends on what page you see now. As we can see here on this particular order, this has gone to a status of drafted, and we've also got a green pass order button here. What this means is that I don't have the relevant permissions to order something of that value in the system, so I'll need somebody else with the relevant authority to pass that order for me. And so if I try to print this order now, the print that we can see here has now got a big draft across it, so we can see that that's not a proper order yet. It's only a draft status. If I try to pass my own order, you'll see that this exceeds my permitted limit of nothing. I'm not allowed to raise any orders at the moment. Everything must be passed by someone else, and I can't push this on any further until someone else either gives me permission to do so or they do it for me. Over on our dashboard, I've added in the widget here called Purchase Order Statuses, and in there we've now got a list of orders at the different statuses that they are at. And as we can see, we've got 5 here at status drafted. Now I've just gone back and amended my user permissions so you can see how the order would then get passed by someone. So if I click on those, the order that we did was for 67 Elm Street here for £35. If I click into the order here, I then go to pass order, I can now provide a little bit more detail. I can change the status and I can update the order if I wish. If I'm just simply passing this for someone, I would just press continue, but if I did want to make changes, of course I can do. So I'm just going to press continue now, and this has now changed the status to a entered status. So now if I press print and print order, what we should see now is that our order has not got the draft watermark anymore. Now on the purchase order sheet, we've got a small selection of buttons here at the top. The red cancel order button will obviously cancel this purchase order. The change status button will allow us to change the status of the order to any one of these, and the reason you might do those, say for example awaiting approval, you needed somebody's permission to do this, or it was waiting on something maybe for your client to approve the order, you could change the status along with the reason, and that would then appear on your dashboard at that status so you can keep an eye on it. I just go back to our sheet here. We've also got the option to add notes and attachments. So if you wanted to add a note to this order, perhaps you'd had a delivery note once the order's completed, you might want to scan that into your system and record that as a thing. You certainly can do that, and you can do that by attaching it here, or you could just simply add a note for the reference of anybody going into this order. They'll see any notes that exist on it. The record delivery and record invoice buttons will be discussed in two separate videos about those two processes, so we'll cover those separately. But if we look at the details of this order, it's very similar to a job sheet. We've got the general details, and that's the description of the order itself. We also have an edit pencil here that we can use to edit the details of the order. We get an order history where we can see who has done what to this order. So as you can see here, this was passed at this date here. We also get to see the contacts, and that relates to the order itself and where it's been ordered from, the supplier. And then finally we get to see our financial summary and the actual order lines. So similar to a job sheet where you see SOR codes, for example, at different statuses, you've got the ordered values, the delivered, and then the invoiced. Now at the moment this job is very much just at ordered, so we get the bar chart showing the £35 there ordered. As we deliver things and invoice them using the buttons at the top here, those will then show in the bar chart here. Now under the print menu, obviously the print order we've already seen, but there is also the option to email. And the email button allows you to send a copy of this order to the supplier. So if you have contacts set up at a particular supplier, you can add them in here. So as you can see here, we've got our contacts. They don't have any email addresses associated to them at the moment, but if they did, you could add them in and they would put them here. So if we were to just type in a test email for now, there's our subject title of the email, and that's the purchase order reference there along with the date and the supplier. We've got the option here to attach the order sheet. Now that's the PDF file of the purchase order itself. And here we've got a little summary of our order, which of course using the tools here you can edit before you send it if you wish. Also, if there are any additional notes on this, you can click to attach those as well. Once you've filled all this in, pressing the green send email button will send an email from the system to that supplier. Now this order is in progress, this order will have been sent to the supplier, and this delivery will either be collected by an operative or delivered to site or wherever. And what we'll do is we will then record the delivery and the invoice at a later date when those have happened. There'll be a separate video on those. One final thing to mention on the purchase order sheet on this video is if we scroll down here on the order lines itself, we've got the job number that relates to that line. But we've also got a section here for related jobs, and that allows us here to click on that reference and take us back into the job sheet from which this order was raised initially. So if you remember, we clicked Raise PO to begin this process. If we now scroll down our job sheet, we can see now that we've got an additional section on here in green which is relating to the purchase orders. So here we've got our order for the mixer tap for £35, and that £35 also appears in the financial summary for purchases here, and there is also this number here, which there is a system option that controls this, and you can choose at what point your purchases form part of the costs in the profit summary on the job. A lot of people like that to be at the point it's delivered, so we'll see that on our next video. But one final thing, on this section here for the purchase orders, if we click on that reference, it takes us back into that purchase order sheet. So as you can see, here's our job number, and we can get into that from the purchase order sheet, and then sitting behind that on the job sheet we've also got our purchase orders. Of course, we can also find our order, so usually held underneath the find menu, could be under your purchasing menu if you have that set up. You'll have find purchase order, and a bit like find job or any of the other reports in our system, you can use any of these fields here to find the information. I'm going to go with the order done today and pressed search, and this will give me a list of any orders that have been carried out today, and there, 67 Elm Street, we can click on that reference and it takes us straight into that order. And as you just saw a couple of moments ago, we could use the purchase order sheet to then go into the job that this relates to. Well, that's how you raise an order from a job. The only other thing to show you is how you might raise an order not associated to a job. So under my create menu, I've also got purchase order. Now this sheet is exactly the same in its look to the one that you get to by raising a PO from a job sheet. The only thing that is different here is down here on the AMS ticket number on the order lines. This is where the job ticket number was pre-populated earlier when we did it from the job sheet. Here you get the option to choose the job you want to add that line to, or you can simply leave it blank if you don't want this to be against a particular job. The reason you might fill that in is if, let's say, you were ordering a lot of materials from the same supplier on one purchase order, but where you wanted it for different costings on different jobs. You might have, say, 10 lines built up down here, and each line is associated to a different job number. And you can do that by providing the ticket number here. But that just about covers how to raise an order in our system. If you've got any questions at all regarding anything you've seen there, do give us a shout, we'd be happy to help. And do please see our other videos on how to record deliveries and record invoices against purchase orders.